Ever since its initial release in May 2016, Overwatch has been a big hit within the gaming community, especially with the fun matches, memorable characters and enjoyable maps that you can play on. Well, maybe not all the maps. And even though we enjoy the game a lot, there are still some things that we find confusing about the game. So here are 10 things that are confusing about Overwatch. Number 10. Apart from the ability of Shadow Step, which allows Reaper to reposition himself from one place to another, Reaper also has another ability which is called Wraith Form. Now Wraith Form, Reaper becomes a shadow for a short period of time, and while in this form he takes no damage and is able to pass through enemies, but cannot fire his weapon or use other abilities. Now this is certainly fine, however there is something confusing about this. It would certainly make sense that he can heal himself by collecting souls from dead enemies, as well as being healed by Mercy, but the confusing thing is, what about Ana? Looking at what Ana fires out of her gun, we can clearly see that she fires out physical syringes. Now if Reaper is in his Wraith form, how the hell is he gonna get healed up by Ana? I might just be a little bit picky about this, but if we look at Mei, who's also another character on Overwatch, when she's in her Ice form, she's not able to be healed up by any of the healing characters. So if this is the case, then why can't we apply this to Reaper's Wraith form? Number 9. Now perhaps one of my favourite abilities in this game is Genji's deflect ability. Now the official description for this ability is that with lightning quick swipes of his Wakizashi, Genji reflects an oncoming projectile and sends it rebounding towards his opponent. Now I certainly like this ability because it lets him go head to head against characters such as Bastion or maybe Soldier 76. But at the same time, Genji can't really deflect to everything. For example, you have Mei's Endothermic Blaster, Winston's Tesla Cannon and Zarya's Energy Laser. These are the 3 main characters to which can take down Genji easily. But coming from a logical perspective, there should be more projectiles that Genji can't actually deflect from. So for example, you have Pharah's rockets. Now Pharah's rockets are big, and to be able to deflect these rockets, it just doesn't make sense. Not to mention that these rockets blow up on impact as well as deal damage. Surely it would blow up once it hits the sword that Genji has. But it doesn't, it's deflected for some reason. Another character that also comes to mind is Junkrat. Now we know that Junkrat fires bombs out of his gun, or I don't know whether you call it a gun or not, but basically if it doesn't have a target, the bombs will bounce 3 times and on the 3rd time it will blow up. However, if it hits someone, it blows up automatically. But the problem is, if it hits Genji's sword, then surely there should be some sort of impact, and because of that it blows up. But instead we see that Genji actually manages to, deflect the bombs, so I don't know, it's confusing to me. Number 8. We all know Zenyatta is an Omnic, and when we think about Zenyatta, we all think about a robot who floats in the air, meaning that his legs don't touch the ground. However, in terms of Junkrat's Steel Trap, whenever Zenyatta hovers over this Steel Trap, the Steel Trap manages to still get Zenyatta. Now if we were to look at the Steel Trap itself, we can clearly see that there's a pad on there that you need to step on in order to trigger the trap. But the question is, how can Zenyatta do this? He floats, therefore meaning that his legs don't touch the ground. So the outstanding question really is, should Zenyatta still be trapped by Junkrat's Steel Trap? Or would it be plausible for certain characters to be immune to certain abilities? But then again, I think that would be really powerful and OP, so I guess there's a reason for everything, right? Number 7. It's downright awesome when you put people to sleep using Ana's sleep dart. And although it might be a little bit difficult, especially for targets such as Genji who dashes around all the time, or maybe jumps around all the time, or even for Tracer who just literally runs around everywhere, once you actually put someone to sleep, you feel rewarded about it, and because of that, you'd go up to them and you start teabagging them, and then you finish them off, obviously, using the combo of using your E, which is your splash grenade, as well as a few shots and then a final punch. But the thing that stood out the most, and it's quite confusing, is that can Ana's sleep dart really make everyone sleep? Now certainly if it's the human characters in the Overwatch characters list, then yes, it can make them sleep, but what about the robots? You've got Bastion, you've got Orisa, those are the robots, and can you really put D.Va to sleep? I mean, yes, she's human, but what about when she's in her mecha? I mean, how can you put a robot to sleep? That is the question. Not forgetting that Ana's sleep dart consists of some sort of liquid state, etc. How would you put them to sleep? How would you put the robots to sleep? That is one of the big questions that I still ask myself today. Number 6. You know, one of the fun things about Sombra is that she can actually hack everyone in the game, as well as hack all of the health packs in the map. Now it's just great because hacking a health pack on the map, you can just go and get the health pack and then wait a few seconds for it and then get it again, instead of waiting, you know, quite a while. And although Blizzard has implemented the ability for Sombra to hack everyone in the game, it's confusing at the same time at why certain abilities can't be used. For example, if we look at McCree, he's got 2 abilities which consist of Flashbang as well as the Tumble Over for a quick reload. But even if he's hacked by Sombra, I don't really see how these 2 abilities can't be used, or at least one of them at the most. For example, the Tumble ability, I don't really see how he can't, you know, still tumble whilst being hacked. Like, I don't get that, because I would have thought that being like tumbling over is some sort of physical activity that you do by yourself. You know, it's something that you do, your body does. It's just confusing as to see why Sombra would affect that sort of ability. I mean, it would certainly make sense for certain gadgets or machinery that certain characters have as an ability to stop working once they're hacked, such as Pharah's jetpack, or maybe Mei's ultimate. You know, these are the things that, yes, they can get affected once they're hacked, you know. Again, another example could be Genji. You know, his abilities consist of the dash as well as the deflect ability. And it wouldn't make sense that even if Sombra hacked him, that he would lose these 2 abilities. Whereas, you know, these 2 abilities consist of physical movement, you know. I don't understand why, being hacked, Genji wouldn't be able to, you know, continue doing his deflect. But of course, at the end of the day, this sort of hacking ability of Sombra's does make sense, because most of the Overwatch characters, their abilities consist of machinery, or maybe even gadgets, etc. that, yes, under the influence of a hacking, will lose some of its effects until the hacking process is finished. I do believe that there should be exceptions. Exceptions include Genji or even McCree, where the abilities consist of physical movement, you know, and it would be quite confusing, you know, for Sombra to be able to hack McCree or even Genji when they're using physical movement as an ability, you know. Number 5. You know, I didn't realise this until recently, but I was looking at Soldier 76's gun and I noticed that there was this one area that kind of confused me. You see, playing a Soldier 76 is quite fun because it's literally a no-aim kind of gun. You get what I mean? Like, it's so easy to aim at things, even without your ult, and even using your ult, jeez, you literally don't need to aim whatsoever. But the problem's not that, the confusing thing is about his Helix rockets. You see, I always thought that whenever Soldier 76 uses his Helix rocket, it would always be 1. However, there's actually indeed 3 Helix rockets that are being shot out at the same time. But it doesn't really make sense at all, because if you look at the Soldier 76 gun, there's only 1 Helix rocket attachment being attached onto the gun, and yet it only fires 3 Helix rockets. I think it would have made more sense if you had 2 extra attachments underneath the initial one, so that it does look like the drawing that you see on the in-game when you want to fire a Helix rocket. As you can see here, it's got like 3 sort of circular shapes there. And I would have thought that it would make sense if you have, like, you know, that sort of triangular shape under the gun. Number 4. Now, apart from using ranged weapons in the Overwatch game, you've also got the option of using melee combat. Now, melee combat is only used when a character's HP is about 15 to 20, and one single punch can knock them out. However, using melee weapons such as using your fists doesn't apply to every single character. For example, you have Torbjorn and you have Reinhardt, who both use their hammers to replace their fists. And apart from that, you don't really see any other characters that use these, apart from one, and that is Genji. If you look carefully, Genji actually uses the blade that he uses to deflect projectiles as the melee weapon. Now, certainly, this is no problem at all. However, the most confusing thing about this is the marks that he leaves. Now, if you didn't know already, in Overwatch, whenever you punch a wall or punch any sort of object, it always leaves a dent mark on there. And you can see right here that I'm playing different characters, showing you the different kinds of dent marks that they leave. However, one dent mark that I'm really concerned about is Genji's dent marks. You see, the problem is that Genji uses a blade as a melee weapon, and so the expectation would be that the kind of marks that he leaves would resemble a blade's mark. However, doing what I just did in the video, I found that the marks that he left behind are kind of similar to just a punching mark, and it's not very significant or unique to the resemblance of a blade. Then again, you could just say that I'm just being really picky towards this point, since it's almost the end of the video, and you know what? I guess I am, but you know, I'm still confused. Number 3. Now bear with me on this one because we're going to talk about Genji again, but this time not necessarily just about Genji, but rather about his twin blades. Now if you didn't know already, Genji has two blades, one short one and one long one. You'd normally see the short one when he uses a melee attack, and you'd see the long one when he uses his ultimate. But what's so significant about these two blades, you might ask? Well, we have to go back into history, back to the 13th century of Japan. Now the short blade was named Masamune, whereas the long blade was named as Muramasa. Now these two names were considered to be the greatest swordsmiths in Japan. Masamune was said to have a placid and peaceful personality, and thus engraved serenity on its swords and are then carried into the person wielding it. So this is why you see Genji only using the blades for deflecting and only melee attacking. Muramasa on the other hand is said to have an immense evil personality, which engraves a curse on its blade. And according to the legend, the cursed blade of Muramasa possesses its wielder and induced it into a bloodthirsty rampage. And so you could kind of say that this is why Genji uses the blade for his ultimate and his swift strike. But the problem is that there's something confusing about this, because when Genji uses his melee attack, which is Masamune, he can also use it to, instantly knock out someone or kill someone. So Masamune is said to have a placid and peaceful personality and thus engraves serenity on its sword. Then how come, Genji still uses or has the ability to use this sword to finish people off? It just wouldn't make sense, would it? Number 2. Now being a McCree main, I certainly do enjoy the toolset that I've been given in order to carry out my missions or carry out my objectives. And certainly with abilities such as the flashbang and also the tumble and quick reload, these are really useful tools in order to help me not only take out the offensive characters, but also the defensive, support, and possibly even the tanks. Now I'm not saying that McCree's abilities are bad, because they're not. They help achieve objectives and they help achieve moving the payload, etc. But one of the most confusing things about this is the actual tumble ability. Now the tumbling ability gives him some distance as well as letting him instant reload. But the problem is, does he really reload that fast? I mean, if you actually look at his normal animation, if he doesn't do a tumble, it's actually pretty slow. So having to tumble and then reload instantly, I just think it's not really that possible. But, then again, it's me picking on things at this stage of the video. Now, this is definitely not to say that I would want this removed. I'm just saying that, it's confusing, but please don't remove it. I love this ability. It helps me get out of situations, and it helps me get those fan the hammer kills as well. So it's really good. Number 1. Now this is perhaps the most frustrating and confusing thing that I have on the list so far, and that is to Mercy. It's not like I don't like Mercy, I love her to bits, If I had to choose a support in this game, I would definitely go for Mercy first, because she's just the best support there is. But the problem is that her ultimate is really confusing. So, her ultimate resurrects people, what's so hard to understand about that? But that's not the thing that I don't understand. The thing that I don't understand about it is why I can't kill her when she resurrects people. You see, the amount of times as I play a McCree, trying to stun her while she resurrects, it's just disgusting because I'm not able to kill her, nor am I able to stun her. That's the thing, and then by the time that finishes, I get killed instead. So I said to myself, maybe I missed out on something. Maybe it says on Mercy's abilities that when she resurrects people, she is invulnerable, and, maybe it's just that, I need to look things up again. But looking it up again, it doesn't say that she's invulnerable, it just says that she resurrects people. So, the confusing thing is, why am I not able to target her while she resurrects people? I mean, is this something that, is this a bug, or I don't know, or is this just something that the developers missed? I don't know either, but I mean, if they clearly said that Mercy resurrects people, but doesn't say anything about her being invulnerable in the process, then I would have thought that, this means that we can easily kill her during her resurrection. But this is clearly not the case. And so these were my top 10 confusing things about Overwatch. What were your confusing things about Overwatch? Let me know in the comments, and also remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I will be seeing you in the next one, so goodbye people. And last but not least, you can have the chance to appear on my Overwatch videos by simply adding my Battle.net account, which is Arkham Knight #21707. I'll be seeing you in the battlefield.